Mark Graban and Jamie Flinchbaugh share more than just their MIT degrees. They're authors, speakers, and trusted voices in the lean community. Plus, they're both serious about their coffee. They bring expertise without the complexity because lean doesn't have to be rocket science. Their takes are bold and their insights are fresh. Welcome to Lean Coffee Talk, where lean wisdom is brewed and served.
Hi, welcome to Lean Coffee Talk. I'm Mark Graban, regular co-host and author of books including The Mistakes That Make Us, joined today, as usual, by our good friend
Jamie Flinchbaugh, author of People Solve Problems. Good to see you, Mark.
Yeah, good to see you, Jamie. This is episode 4 of Lean Coffee Talk, episode 54 in our series that started as Lean Whiskey. Going 50 of that into Lean Coffee Talk, it does make it easy to remember, okay, what number overall, right?
Yeah, good time for a transition. So
yeah, that just happened. That was serendipity. But we've got 2 special guests joining us today, and I'm going to bring them in. Those watching on video, here comes the reveal of our special guests. They are Tracy O'Rourke and Elisabeth Swan.
Hey,
hello.
Hello.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Jamie. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you both.
good to see you both. We've this sort of a crossover coffee lean topic with the Just-in-Time Cafe, which is your podcast. So a nice little thematic overlap. And, we've done this before where episode 45 of Lean Whiskey, not that long ago, just sort of 9 episodes ago, we were all together for that. So feels like a long time ago, I guess, in our slow schedule of Lean Coffee Talk. It has been quite a while. So.
Well, I'm impressed with both of you for remembering all this, given all the lean whiskey you've had. So I realize why you switched to lean coffee.
Well, if I'm forgetting things, it's a function of being mid-afternoon on a Friday. Too early for whiskey anyway, and almost too late for coffee.
We're in that zone. We're in that zone.
In that zone. That's why I'm on decaf. But we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, no whiskey today. We have more interesting things to talk about today as the 4 of us get together. But we will start with our coffee. We were doing some favorite cocktails before.
Can I jump in with one quick plug before we get into the coffee? So it says on screen for those watching on YouTube that Elisabeth and Tracy are co-authors of the Problem Solvers Toolkit, and this is going to be our topic later, but 2nd edition. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Woo, woo. We are so excited.
Absolutely.
So we are going to talk about that after the coffee topic. I just wanted to go ahead and throw that in a quick congratulations.
That's where we're headed.
So, Jamie, back over to you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll definitely talk more about the 2nd edition of the book, and we'll start with our coffee topic. And since you already mentioned the time, I'm on decaf. So we're just going to talk about a little bit what we're drinking today, and then we'll get into more coffee from a routine standpoint. But I actually tried something new. I'm doing a ice. It's also like a over 100 heat index here. So I'm doing an iced almond milk decaf macchiato.
That's not.
So never done it before. So
you made this at home?
Yes, made this at home. So 2 ounce or 40 grams decaf espresso, 40 grams almond milk. It's forget the brand, but it's just almonds and water. That's the only ingredients in the almond milk, and then an ice cube. So very still simple, but a little bit of work and a little bit of planning, a little bit of measuring. There's probably better ways to do it, but not bad for a really hot mid-afternoon drink.
Mm-hmm. It looks like a refreshing cocktail.
It does.
Yes, I did put it in a cocktail glass, partly with the ice cube. I thought the coffee mug, I'd start rolling it all over the place. So now I know exactly where my the ice cube is in the
Sounds
glass.
like both healthy
Right.
and also kind of chic, like a hip.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's bougie, but it is a little hipster, but it's mostly just healthy and what I have. So a combination
What
of
you
those
have.
things.
It's good.
And a macchiato is less milk than a latte.
Yeah, if you don't get it at Starbucks, so if you get it at Starbucks, who knows what you're getting? They've ruined it for everybody. And I still go to coffee shops. Every coffee shop I go to, how do you make a macchiato? But it should be basically a 1-to-1 ratio. So equal parts milk, steamed milk in normal cases in a hot macchiato. So equal parts steamed milk and coffee or espresso. So similar to a cortado, which is usually a little more on the steamed milk side. And it stands for marked, macchiato, marked or stained. So it's just a little dab. Like you can barely tell in the color change. So yeah, go to a coffee shop, ask for macchiato. It's a range of different stuff you might get. So you kind of have to. I always have to ask, how do you make your macchiato?
I do that with bartenders and cocktails sometimes.
Yeah.
How do you make an old fashioned?
If you're particular,
Yeah.
they're hopefully there to serve. So
Yeah. Well, today on the Jamie Craps on Starbucks podcast, again, we're joined by Tracy O'Rourke and Elisabeth Swan. Let's go around the horn, Tracy. What's your beverage right now? And then we'll come back around and talk about morning or daily routines.
Okay. So my coffee right now so I'm on the West Coast, so it's still only 11 o'clock for me. So technically I could still have the full caffeine of a regular coffee. So that is what I am drinking right now.
excellent.
Well, is there actually something in it? Do you want me to talk about that now?
Sure. Well, if this is part of your morning routine, then maybe we'll save that for morning routine.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, so mine is also an iced coffee, and what I do is we have a drip coffee machine, and we put Cafe Du Monde in it. That's the New Orleans brew that has chicory in it, so it's a little strong. That and straight up cream or half and half, and I don't do it that often, but for special occasions like joining Lean Coffee, I thought, hey, I deserve a special iced coffee today. So into the Just in Time Cafe mug, and over to you, Mark. What do you got?
Excellent.
All right. So what I'm drinking now, and this is different than my morning routine, and this is different. This is the opposite of hipster and bougie and sophisticated and sleek. I am drinking a decaf Keurig K-Cup. Laugh at me or judge, if you will. That's what I'm drinking now. Just drinking it black. I'm more excited about my mug. This is a mug that has the cover of The Mistakes That Make Us on this side, and on the other side, Elisabeth, I'm going to ask you to explain. It says Mark Graban ships.
This, I love that mug. And I love my compatriot mug with the image of my own book, Picture Yourself a Leader, on the other side, and Elisabeth Swan ships on mine, which I got in the mail from one Mark Graban after I mentioned, it was probably on a LinkedIn post, after being involved with you with a group, someone said, hey, we should do X. And it happened in like that minute. Mark Graban just did it. So I just said, once again, Mark Graban ships. It
might not be perfect, but we can iterate.
And just always sticks in my mind that you ship. And that was Steve Jobs. That came from his comment that artists ship. and meaning get stuff done, like make it happen. Don't just talk about it. And that always sticks in my mind, that in terms of our worlds, that you got to do it. You got to get out there and make it happen.
Now, wasn't this your gift to me, this mug here? Or did you send me the image? Or I remember sending you a mug.
You had two of them made, and you sent me mine, and then we both had them because we both ship, Mark. That's what was the good part of it.
Well, I really feel I'm the only person that without a personalized mug. And I know the joke in our house is that anybody that brings more mugs into the house is, that's a sin at this point because we have too many. But geez, I really feel at this point like I need a personalized mug with a logo on it. But
Jamie.
Maybe I'll get you a mug that says this is probably not Starbucks.
Probably, certainly, whatever.
Most definitely.
We'll give a shout out to our sponsor, every other coffee shop in the world.
That's right. As well as home brewers, as we all are today. So, we thought we'll talk about this in a different way. Sort of moving on from what's in our cups currently to our morning routine. So, coffee has this special place in the world, but certainly in America, in people's daily routines. Very few people that drink coffee will only have it a couple times a week, right? For many people, there's a routine around it, and that routine is daily, even if it changes between weekends and weekdays. So we thought, for starters, just to share the morning routine. What is it? What does it look like for each of us? So Elisabeth, why don't you hit us off there first?
So when I am home, the routine is part of meeting up with my husband in the morning. So he's the coffee maker. We have a crazy fancy, it's actually Australian Breville coffee maker, which the one we had before blew up. So, and I could work that one. This one, I've ceded all responsibility and expertise to my husband. I have no idea what he's doing, but he's measuring, he's tamping. Everything has to be done just so.
Wait, question. It blew up and you bought the same thing again after it blew up?
Did not buy the same thing again. So the old machine I had mastered, and the new machine I have not. And that's the Breville. So he's responsible for making us schmancy cappuccinos. My responsibility is toast, and he makes the bread for the toast. So the demands of my skill are low, but I'm part of that. And the other thing we do is we get our coffees, our toast, and we sit and we do the crossword of the day. And that's, kind of a joint effort. He's better at, say, jazz tunes, anything to do with anthropology. I have stored every inane fact about TV sitcoms since I was born, seemingly, whether I watch them or not. Those are all still lodged up here. So between us, we knock it out and then head off to our offices. Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Tracy, why don't you go next?
Sure. So what's really interesting about this is that I'm really rethinking my routine, my morning routine, my coffee routine. So sadly, I'm in my 50s now, mid 50s. I won't share how old I am, but my body is just becoming less and less tolerant of things. So I had, a surprise. I went to the doctor and basically, I've been working on my health and all my biomarkers were looking really good, but I was wanting to improve them. And so I went back this year and all my biomarkers look great, except for my blood sugar, which went up a couple of points. And that made me officially pre-diabetic. And I'm like, what? So now I'm mad. And so I'm rethinking things. I used to put sugar in my coffee, and I tried black, and honestly, I don't like black. I need some flavor. So I tried this Shroom Boom stuff. Have you guys ever heard of it?
That sounds like a product endorsement. Look at that.
I know it's not. I'm not getting paid for it, but it's some sort of adaptogen. And, maybe it's because I live in California. So this stuff just, is always in front of you. It's not a psychedelic.
So it would be legal in other states.
Yeah. So I'm trying it, and it's very, very flavorful. So I've been putting that in my coffee, and also some protein collagen that has no taste and no clumps, to start to eliminate some of my sugar. And unfortunately, my favorite happy hour drink is also espresso martinis. So, and with vodka. And
I'm team bourbon, but being here in Kentucky, I have to be, I guess.
Yeah.
Bourbon espresso martini.
Yes. So, there's a lot of rethinking here. I can't say that I have a routine right now. And also part of that is going to the gym, because Elisabeth knows, because we've talked about this, that strength training is very important. And I haven't been doing much of it. So I need to start incorporating that more into my routines. So I literally have to put it on my to-do list. And I actually put on the actual exercises that I'm going to do every day, so that I can get my dopamine hits for checking things off. Because for whatever reason, that seems to work really well for me, is I get motivated to check stuff off my list. And that includes working out and taking my vitamins. So like by the time I start work, I've checked off like 20 things. It feels really good.
That's great.
All right, Jamie.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Tracy's experimenting, right, and trying new things, changing the routine, which I think we have to do once in a while. And I've definitely shifted my coffee from fuel to more experience, and that's been over the last several years. So used to be, especially when I was at hotel, wake up. I'd actually like preload the coffee machine. I'd wake up in a hotel, hit brew, then go get a shower, right? And so now I do not have coffee first thing. It's because it's not fuel. I'll do other things, get my water, get some other things in my system, and then often, usually around 9 a.m., somewhere between 8 and 10, probably, I'll make an espresso on my fancy machine, and often sit outside, but no screens. So it's me. It's a very manual experience, and it's a slow down experience. So deliberately. So sometimes it's just me, listening to the birds, but thinking about some stuff, maybe about a topic coming up for the day, maybe something else, but thinking about stuff, maybe a little reading, maybe a little journaling, pen and paper, but no screens. And so that's kind of very deliberate combination where, again, often always sit outside. Even this morning, as hot as it was early enough. So I sit outside, turn on the fan, and again, no screens, no phone, and just sort of slow down my thinking for a little bit, even though I'm putting caffeine in my system. So, but espresso doesn't have as much caffeine as a full cup of coffee. So it's really, again, not about the fuel. It's really more about the experience. 15 minutes. It doesn't take long. I'm not pounding down the espresso. I'm taking my time with it, but that's part of my routine, and really, really like it. I'd say when there's something in the way of that routine, and it shouldn't be this way, but it's gotten to the point where I'm a little antsy. So about having missed it. So that's part of my routine, and it's been evolving over the last 2 or 3 years.
That antsiness is different than needing the caffeine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not needing the caffeine. I definitely have had days where I do that because I'm really a 2 espresso, one or two a day. So it's not a lot of caffeine, and And then I might do, again, a decaf espresso in the afternoon or something, just for the enjoyment of it. But yeah, not like I'm getting shaky, missing the caffeine. It's just, it's sort of a mental slowdown check-in moment. So.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So that's mine. What about you, Mark?
Yeah. So my morning usually does not start with the Keurig. That's there when needed. Sometimes visitors like to use that. Tracy, everything you said resonated with me. I'm in my early 50s, and a lot of what you said there resonated. Putting workout or yoga into the calendar because it's easy to get caught up in doing other things and trying to make healthy choices. So, to my credit, I generally drink black coffee. I don't add sugar or other stuff to it. But, I've really come around to enjoying, and I always said, like, I do like Starbucks. And they finally engineered a way to get $5 or $6 out of me because I used to be the $2 cup of black coffee drinker, and this is called Nitro Cold Brew Coffee. I make cold brew at home. I haven't tried to buy the equipment to nitrogenate it, but I like cold coffee. I like the cold brew. It's usually less acidic and just sits better on my stomach. So morning routine often involves, I have a Starbucks that's like a 5-minute walk away. So if I get out for a good longer exercise walk, I can treat myself and stop at Starbucks on the way home. Or if schedule doesn't allow, it's a pretty quick trip over to Starbucks and back. In a pinch, their canned Starbucks Nitro Cold Brew is okay. It's not quite the same texture. I think the way Guinness drinkers might say a canned Guinness is not quite the same. So, it's not quite a daily thing. Sometimes I'll use the home espresso machine, but yeah, the daily routine, it's more like, some sort of cold coffee from Starbucks or from the fridge. But we're talking about daily routines. I wonder how many people would either half jokingly or seriously say, when told about leader standard work, they might say, yeah, I have that. The first thing I do after getting in is I go and get a cup of coffee. That's my standard work.
Yep.
Everything else is chaos. But that's my standard.
Well, and back when I was in offices with other people, I would often be the first one in the building, whatever that was, whether it was the 5th floor at DT Energy or even the LFM offices at MIT. I'd be the first one there. So I'd turn on the lights and I'd turn on the coffee machine and just let it warm up so then I can, make the coffee. So whoever was second and third always knew they'd be coming into some hot coffee. So definitely part, like literally my walk in through the office, part of that, the walk path would be around standard work. But sounds like your little, quick walk. Of course, you could be pre-stocked, but your little quick walk gets you out. It's kind of a mindfulness moment. And so, yeah, I like that. That's similar in many ways.
Let me throw in a random topic real quick because I'm going to tell an old guy story. And 30 years ago, I started my career at General Motors, like 30 years ago this month. And we're going to talk about bad coffee. So I'm going to ask maybe the topic real quick is the worst workplace coffee you ever had. They had the GM Coffee Club where I guess we all pitched in and somebody would make just awful Folgers or Maxwell House type coffee in a bunt coffee maker that was probably never cleaned. It was nasty. And it was like 5 cents a cup, like throw a nickel into the coffee can, kind of old timey workplace coffee club. I'm old.
Yep. No, I've spent a lot of nickels. I always had the money for the near free coffee.
Big shot. Woo.
That was really a community contribution to help, pull the effort, make sure nobody was having to buy all the coffee. I do have you beat on bad coffee though. As one person I worked with in, I can't even remember which manufacturing plant it was, but he had a Mr. Coffee drip machine, but his approach was drip machine the coffee, then pour the coffee back in and run it through a second time. And he would burn out because the coffee would go through the burner coils, and it would basically destroy a machine every 6 months.
Yeah.
And very clear what the reason was, but didn't matter. That's how he wanted his coffee, double brewed.
He didn't just add twice the grounds.
It wasn't enough. I can tell you there'd be a difference. This approach cooked it way harder. So no, it was how they did it, and it was bizarre. But
okay, I got one too. So the worst coffee experience I ever had, it's because of expectation, right? So I got in pretty early. Usually there were people there before me most of the time. But this time I got there super early to prepare for something. And I go to the coffee machine. I, pour it in my cup, put, the little creamer in it. I go to drink it. It was the coffee from the day before. It was cold.
Yeah.
No, it was awful. I mean, I was like, I wanted to gag. I was like, oh no. So that was terrible. But I do have to share the best coffee I ever had at work was in Seattle, as you can imagine, at King County with a guy named Jay McNally who would carry a French press, his own beans, and a grinder in his backpack. And if he liked you that day, you got to share his coffee with him.
I like him.
That sounds like a Jamie move. Yeah.
It does sound like a Jamie move.
And I mean that in the best way. I'm picking on you today.
Oh, that's good. I'm fine.
That's good. Keep picking on Jamie. So here's mine, and it's the worst coffee, but not for the reasons you'd expect. So this was on a gig working for the Bahamian telecom company for about 18 months and staying in a Sheraton. And the Starbucks was at the other side of the Sheraton. And to get there, the fastest way was to go through the basement, which was a casino. And my colleague, also a colleague of Tracy's, various gigs, Kelly Kita, wanted a decaf, but she wanted a triple shot decaf. And that's what she could get from Starbucks. So we walked through the casino to get to the Starbucks where it was completely empty. Nobody was there, but it was just as loud as if they were. So bells were going off and they were still smoking down there. So the whole place reeked of smoke. So we had to walk through this very garish casino to get to the Starbucks. And that was the worst coffee experience I think that I consistently had for months on end.
Yeah, I hear that.
Second place bad coffee is generally any nurse's break room in a hospital setting. Now I've seen people do coffee Kaizen of like, we could set a timer or some visual indicator that says, see, we're connecting it to lean, it's lean coffee talk. We need some indicator of like when it's time to dump out the coffee and brew a fresh batch. They're problem solving, huh?
Yep. Of course, the part of the problem is they're often so busy. Nobody that even enters and sees the visual cue has the time to do it, which is a different problem, a different framing of the problem. But that's why you end up with cold brew and other things that are always ready, right? Mm-hmm. In that regard. So, we'll keep drinking our coffees today and get into some of our topics here. As Mark previewed, we kind of wanted to start with the second edition of the Problem Solvers Toolkit. And I have to say, my first book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to Lean, that I co-wrote with Andy Carlino, is 19 years old, I think, this year, if I remember correctly. I never do, but I've thought many times, second edition, and just the idea of opening that can of worms and revisiting all the content and refreshing it, re-editing it, just kind of overwhelms me. And so I think the decision to go to a second edition is a big deal. Mm-hmm. So what brought you around to just the decision, the idea of doing a second edition?
Well, a lot of reasons. And I'd say very big reason starting right off was we had to bring it into the just-in-time cafe. So we already had to create new graphics, branding, all the infographics needed to be reimagined. And so we were already doing that. And then there's the reality that we, like, back to yours, which I love the name of yours. Tracy and I would have grabbed Hitchhiker's Guide had you not already done that, Jamie.
Yeah, we love that. We love that.
Yeah, we loved it. 2018 is when we did the first edition, and years have passed. Tracy and I have learned a lot and changed our opinions on tools, techniques, focus. And one of the things we discovered was that everybody gravitated to one of the aspects of this tool book, which isn't kind of a normal segment of tool books, which is the potholes and detours. And the things that can go wrong when you use this tool, and then how to get around that. And we had all new ones, right? Mm-hmm. And then we wanted to incorporate those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Jamie. So it took 1 year for us to write the book, the first edition. It took us 2 years to write the second edition, even though the whole book was already friggin' written. But we changed a lot of it. And we just said, we want to do it right. We did not put a time frame around it either. So I remember Elisabeth and I had a conversation about, we wanted to incorporate something, and we thought, okay, if we incorporate this, it's going to add a lot of time to this. And we just said, let's do it. Let's just do it right. So we took our time, which is really nice, because the first edition, we were really on a timeline. And this one, we did take our time, and we both absolutely love it. And just the feel of it, the cover, we are so excited about the cover and all the infographics. So we really are excited about it. So it was a big decision. And then also the links didn't work on the last one. So we absolutely had to redo it anyway.
Yeah. So this is like, do it right the first time, the second time. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is hard, because we all continue to learn, right? So there's always like, I'd say it differently this time, and I'd say it different, I'd do this differently, and I'd add that. And so there's so many good reasons. But as you kind of describe the process, it is kind of daunting, because you want to revisit every aspect of it. And when you don't have a timeline, right, it can stretch out, which can result in a better product, artistship, to Elisabeth's earlier point. And I won't say which book it was, but I do know an author who co-wrote a book with somebody, and they indicated to me that they were eventually under a timeline crunch, and it kind of showed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice when you just, okay, we're going to get it right, and it'll come out. Everybody already has the first edition, so it's not like we're starving people for stuff. Let's work on the second edition and then get it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and if you go, there's this fine line between, I guess, I'm Mr. He ships, but then like I felt like just self-imposed pressure 2 years ago with the mistakes that make us. I figured, I didn't want to work on it forever. I wanted to get it out there. But then, a while after, a couple months after it was out, and like then you have the regrets of like beyond the typos. Those are easy to fix. But I'm like, I'm doing a book that's based on a lot of podcast stories, and I missed, in hindsight, to me, the obvious thing of I could have put QR codes in there on the pages to help someone point directly to the episode instead of just doing old-timey footnotes. And I'm like, well, then that means relaying out pages and expense, and it's so I convinced myself I'll just live with that regret unless I ever do somehow a second edition. So if I'd let it sit and percolate for a while, I don't know if I would have come up with that. I don't know, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret shipping.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I don't want to dwell on it, but Tracy and I did get rolling immediately, right? Once we had the book and we were ready to bring it into the Just in Time Cafe. But both our personal lives, we lost some folks in our family at the same exact time. And we, I think, appropriately stepped back and said, okay, that goes on the shelf and we come back to it. But back to your description, Jamie, of diving into a book that, like all that takes, starting and then coming back, that was some uphill. And then I think we got into a role, and then there was, the deadlines of publishing was like, all right, people, it's pedal to the metal. But we had done great work, so I think we were in good shape.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you've talked about some in all of that of what you wanted to add. What else would be, I'll say, new and different about the second edition, whether people are familiar or not with the first edition?
Mm-hmm. Glad you asked, Jamie. So we definitely wanted to add more fun because we feel like we do have the fun take. We try to make process improvement fun and productive. And we really wanted to incorporate more of that. We wanted to give the book a little more sass, right, Elisabeth? And so we actually incorporated something called road games, because the reality is when you're problem solving with teams, it can be really easy to get very action oriented and like, what's the next task? What's the next task? And sometimes we forget about the team building aspect of problem solving and connection. And I feel like people think, well, we don't really need to do team building because it's not efficient. And I actually used to hate icebreakers. I used to not like icebreakers when I was in my younger years, but the studies and research shows that people are more likely to work better together with icebreakers. Now, I don't like games, but I do like the kind where you get to know the person a little bit more and you have some sort of connection. And we find it does just work better. And I use this all the time in the real world, that we're definitely using icebreakers, and you feel the mood change in the team meetings. So we incorporated road games that you could do at every phase of process improvement, and it's a lot of fun. So there's icebreaker team activities.
So if the icebreaker is fun facts, your fun fact could be, I hate icebreakers.
Pretty much, yes. I haven't had anybody say that yet, but I'm sure that it could happen.
Yeah.
What's funny though?
I might be the one that would say it that way. And it is because there's a lot of things that I don't like, but I also know work. Right. And even simulations. I mean, I perhaps have designed more lean simulations than anybody else on the planet. I mean, close to 20 in total, and of various different flavors. But I actually hate going through them. Mm-hmm. But I know they work, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's sometimes our preferences do get in the way versus objective data, and all of that. And I will say, because it's different than my brand. My brand is not let's see how fun and light we can make things. But you two, you have fun with what you're doing. I enjoy what I do. I'm not the insert fun kind of guy. It is what it is, but but it's very on brand for the two of you. You definitely have fun with it and invite others to have fun with you. So I'd imagine it was both easy, but also had to be thoughtful about how do we make fun in the book.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I'm a big fan of efficient and effective team building, right? So again, like I said, I don't like to do the games so much. Like, okay, let's try to figure out what country we all know, or, it's really more around getting to know something about the people you work with to create that connection. Because often people just don't know about things. So we have things like, how many legs are in your house, right? So you have to count all the legs and then share that. And, we had one woman that had 6 chickens, and for some reason she thought chickens had 4 legs. So her leg count was completely off. And we're like, what? And it was hilarious. We were all laughing. but we didn't even know she had chickens. Like a lot of people didn't know she had chickens. And so it's creating an environment where people can share something very quickly, but creates that connection very fast as well. So, we always talk about, one of them is what's your birth order? And like, are you youngest, oldest, middle, only? And then, how does that affect who, so we put them in groups and then they can talk about being the oldest. And sometimes they, bully the youngest group, right? So you always learn something and they're quick. But, I think people sometimes think, oh, you have to spend 4 hours to go to a baseball game to build rapport with your team. No, it could take 15 minutes, literally. Just be mindful and insert it when appropriate. So really, and again, I do this as well. And even though I do see, to your point, Jamie, I do sometimes see people like, if I ask them, do you guys want to do an icebreaker? 80% of the people are going to say no. But when we say, okay, this is what you want to share, they always do it and they actually enjoy it. Like I actually see the mood lighten.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's a shift. Mm-hmm. And those, the road games sprang from Tracy's brain. And so, and a lot of these crack me up, and I've pulled some into, especially when I've got students that with a brand new class, it's like, okay, how are we going to get some level set with who's who? What, in terms of what we added to the book, what I brought was back to the road trip analogy, personal pit stops. So we wanted to address the need for team leads to deal with people's side of change. And that's often, they can do the process map, they can put an A3 together, but when it comes to like actually getting other people involved or to make a change, they get stuck. So we added reflective prompts that I pulled from Picture Yourself a Leader. So in every chapter, there's, 2 short stories that connect directly to the problem-solving journey at that point. And their micro lessons are all drawn from real experience. Like as an example, you guys probably know this, there's a chapter about how to set your brain up for success. So it turns out we do not come up with our best ideas in a conference room, gathered around a flip chart or on a Zoom call. What we need are theta waves for your optimum ideal flow. And those happen, and that often comes out when I ask people, where do you get your best ideas? And they say, oh, on the treadmill, walking the dog, doing the dishes, middle of the night when I wake up. And those are all times that we're conjuring theta waves. So that gives people ideas with how to work with team members and stakeholders, right? You need to honor that with the people you're working with, and give them time to, have good idea flow. So that's just one example of, inserting that piece. And just the reality that this book is for, problem solvers, and some of them might be team leads, some of them might not be, but even if they don't have a title, they're impacting people around them. So if they're having influence, whether they realize it or not, might as well, get a handle on that and have good influence, right? So anyway, we pulled that in, and we reference them so people know what they can download if they want. And if I thought about it, Mark, I would have put a QR code, but they know the link, and they can go download the chapter, unless they have the book, which they should really have the book. But if they don't, they can still access the chapters. But yeah, that was my personal addition to the second edition.
I've got a follow-up question on sass. What's an example of something sassy that's in the book now?
So we gave the characters in the book, they're all part of the Just-in-Time Cafe. They're a team trying to reduce how long it takes their customers to get their lunch orders. But we gave the people in the book some personality. So they might have They might have an issue with someone, like, say, moving their garlic press or questioning what they're doing in their process. So it brings in kind of the real aspect of how people really behave during process improvement, that you don't always get smootheration. And then just Tracy's and my voice saying, hey, this is messy, right? Just coming clean and being frank about what people are dealing with process improvement, which doesn't go to plan, right? This isn't smooth. This isn't my daily iced coffee that's waiting for me, and all it needs is some cream. So, that's some sass.
Yeah. And some of the characters are like anti-sass then?
Yeah, they're like, don't sass me.
Which is sassy in its own way.
Yeah. It's meta.
Yeah, they conveniently named it Jamie, and he took everything too seriously in the book. So
He just got mad all the time.
Yeah.
And then Tracy, the last piece, I'll leave to
Yes.
you. That's
so the last thing we did, we upgraded the entire digital companion, if you will. So we upgraded the templates. They're all downloadable online. We included instructions, and we used to have a healthcare example, and we decided to create a more universal example that no matter what industry you were in, you probably understand this process. It's the new hire onboarding process. So at least, because when people are not in healthcare and they look at the example, they feel a barrier suddenly, but everybody can relate to onboarding. And so all the examples for all the templates have a new hire onboarding case study example for every template. And I think it helps people to understand, although they might not be an expert in the onboarding process. We've all been through it if we've had a job. And so we really ended up focusing on this digitized content. And then I believe it was Elisabeth that came up with the awesome name, calling it the glove box, to go in line with our journey in the car. And it's on our website, the JIT Cafe. It holds all the templates, the road games, the personal pit stops. There's videos of me talking about the road games. And we're looking to probably incorporate more content too as we move forward. But you get a really great glove box that's specific for problem solving. It doesn't have tissues or a car manual in it. And so, because it's for this journey in particular.
And Jamie, if you ever redo the Hitchhiker's Guide, you can have a Hitchhiker's Glove Box. We totally give it up to you on that. You the first one with the interstellar journey.
Yeah, I think I may have moved on from that idea, but noted.
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's great to hear, how you've evolved it and integrated it into your work with clients and teaching. It's really a companion book in many ways. So congratulations again. And we'll definitely put a link to the book in the show notes for our listeners who want to go check it out.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, congrats again, and for getting that out. Second edition. I'm done doing new editions of Lean Hospitals, but I did a second edition and a third edition. But yeah, it's. I mean, it's not easier than writing a new book. It's just different.
I don't think you're ever going to be done with the mistakes that make us, Mark, because there's so many mistakes to make. So you really got to be ready for that.
Well, it might be volume 2 instead of second edition, because I've done a lot more episodes since then.
I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to move on and talk about this? Might be kind of in the lean category of routines that lead to effectiveness and or efficiency. Yep. We're going to kind of go around and share something there. Jamie?
Yeah. So the idea of this was, we all, whether you call it problem solving, continuous improvement, waste elimination, we're all looking for ways to find micro practices to make ourselves as effective as possible. And our daily routines are part of that. Whether it's built into leader standard work or it's truly just a habit. They're all sort of ways we can do it. And it's always good to hear tips and tricks from people around how they're doing it. So, so we could always decide, well, where in the day does this part routine take place? But for me, I'll just share sort of what happens when I turn on my computer, and kind of power it up, sit down for the first time, and there's a big part where most people complain about being in their inbox too early, right? It hijacks their day, and sometimes it hijacks their getting out of bed. Right? They're looking at their inbox before they get out of bed. My phone's usually 1 or 2 floors away from my bed, so that definitely doesn't happen with me. But my tabs on my browser open up left to right around my calendar is always furthest to the left. And so I'm looking at my calendar to kind of go, am I set for everything? Any surprises that I forgot about yesterday? Am I recording a podcast? Do I need to look at some notes? Is there somebody I'm worried about forgetting our meeting? I should ping them. Just, am I ready for the day? Is there anything I need to do to make sure I'm ready and focused? The second tab is Trello, which is where I manage my own personal Kanban and have for really since Trello was first launched. I'm a very early user of Trello. At this point, you'd have to wrench it out of my dead cold fingers to pull Trello away from me because it's so embedded in my workflow. We have multiple boards on my team for all sorts of different purposes. And then third is my inbox. Right. So I look at my Trello to figure out what's important. What am I working on? Is there some things I want to plug into the day that I wasn't paying attention to? So what's important? And then I finally get to my inbox just to see if there's anything new. And usually even then it's just, is it important? And most of the time it's like, oh, hey, I'm traveling today. I forgot to look at my calendar kind of thing. So that's how I get started. And then I get into deeper stuff, whether it's reading and other things, but kind of just really make sure in that sequence, I have a good mindful thought to the day, but very much making sure I'm not starting in my inbox.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good practice. I'm going to go next because my thing kind of builds on that. I was going to go back to our guests, but I'm going to give credit to Dan Markovitz, who really kind of taught me through Friday afternoon, day before vacation, Brain Cramp, A Factory of One. Dan's book. He really advocated for don't live in your email, live in your calendar. So I've generally got, I've got my built-in laptop screen. I've got the big monitor. I tend to do my work on the big monitor. And on the little screen, if I have that showing email the entire time, it would be constant distraction. So I've gotten better at being mindful of leaving the calendar there. I think I'll take a glance at it and double check, okay, what time is it? Am I, making the choice to flip over to look at email. And my computer is good. It doesn't, with Mac, it doesn't pop up with an Outlook. I don't use Outlook, but notification every time an email comes in. That's one of my strategies to try to, minimize distraction. But then the other thing I was going to add in terms of calendars, like I used to use another system. I switched to Calendly. Like I don't even have a virtual assistant. And there's nothing worse than just trying to go back and forth with somebody on, when are you free? Here's the times I'm free. A day later, they write back, like, no, that time's not free anymore. I could not imagine doing anything without Calendly, just for meetings, podcasts, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Yeah, I'm a Calendly fan. I'm a pro subscriber from 2019. and been using it a long time.
If I was a better podcaster, I'd say use Calendly using promo code Lean Coffee, blah, 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 blah. But
I know. You should be holding up something like I do with Boom Boom. Okay. I'll go next.
Tracy. Yeah.
So I have a lot of different clients that I work with. And I think what's interesting is, I'm a W-2 for a lot of them. So I am a consultant still, but a lot of places that I'm working right now, I am a W-2. So I'm working with the Navy. and I'm working with UC San Diego. And so what's interesting is using all of their systems and then isolated. So when I'm at the Navy, I don't check my UCSD. I don't check the JIT Cafe because I'm at the Navy. So I have to get up early and check those things so that when I'm at the Navy, I could be focused on them. It changes every day depending on what systems I'm using. And of course, everybody uses different systems, right? So I'm a Mac person. Elisabeth and I use Asana for a lot of our processes. And I love that we use that because, again, we do podcasts once a month and we do other things, it is on a regular cadence, but not every day. So we don't always remember every single step. So it's really nice to have those process steps laid out. And by the way, I loved Trello too. And one of the companies that Elisabeth and I were co-owners of ended up switching to Asana, and I fought it. And now I love it. So, it's very similar. I really like it. And I also have a personal Asana Kanban list like you do, Jamie, of all the things I'm doing. It has all my very specific, for example, workouts and vitamins by day. I mean, and again, using that dopamine hit of checking things off somehow is a motivator for me. I would not have known that for a long time, but I'm finding I really like I feel accomplished.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, I'm doing I am driven a lot by my calendar. So I'll check the calendar for the whole week, then the whole month. Then I check my to-do list and I prioritize items based on upcoming activities for the week and then for the day. And that seems to work for me so that I'm not missing something that's coming up. And I have a good idea of what's coming. If I don't do it, I'll probably will do the daily thing, obviously every day to check my appointments and meetings. But, I'm always pretty clear about what's coming the next week and the next week because sometimes I have to completely develop something from scratch and I need time for that. Mm-hmm. So, and then the other thing is, and here's the hard part too, is, I got kids too. And so, I actually need to put on the calendar, spend time with my kids, honestly, because if I didn't, I'd be playing pickleball every day of the week. That's one thing I don't have to put on the calendar. Actually, I do. And, but if I didn't really be cognizant of how many days I'm playing pickleball versus taking my son out to dinner or going with my husband out to dinner, they get away from you.
They won't play pickleball with you?
I wish they would, because that would just make things so much more efficient.
I'm trying to be a problem solver. Sorry for throwing solutions at you.
So they've all tried it once. And none of them are as exuberant about it as I am. But I'm thinking we need to give it another try.
There's not many people as exuberant as you, Tracy, in general. So.
Yeah. On the exuberance meter, Tracy, you topped out, but don't give up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited about process improvement too. I mean, people think, wow, how are you so excited about? Somebody actually said that to me. They're like, how do you like this stuff? But they didn't say stuff so much. And I'm like, what do you mean? How do you not like it? I love it. And then I probably went on for 5 minutes and he probably wished he never asked me that question.
Mm-hmm. Probably he was looking to put you into a logic trap and
an exuberance trumps logic.
It's true. It's true.
How about you, Lizzie?
Okay, so listening to all of you, it's so fascinating. I don't break this down that often, but I realize at some point in our lives, we all figured out, don't go down the email hole. And I've forgotten who, it wasn't the One Person Factory or whatever that book is I meant to write down.
Factory of One.
Factory of One, thank you. But that I learned pretty quickly is a rabbit hole and nobody can resist it. So just don't. So I don't open that up. I don't have it on delivering anything on my phone. And I try to regulate how often I open it up. I'm not always great at that. But the first thing I do is go and look at yesterday's routine. And I have things in there like what were my intentions, what were my actions, and then I've got to write down what are my reflections, right? So based on what played out, what are my reflections, and so then I've got to work on my new. Oh, and then at the end of that is what do you want to do differently, right? Based on what did you mean to do, how did it play out, and then your reflections. What are you going to do differently? So I may or may not have something profound. It might be minor tweak. And then the next day I've got to start with the whole new routine. And I've gotten pretty good at going fast, but I've gotten it so I think it through, like starting with gratitude, and, moving through the same things. What are your intentions on that? And I have to look at first part of the week. I look at the weekly sprint. What do I expect to get done? And I might make tweaks to that. And back to what you guys all brought up, which is my calendar. All right. So based on the calendar, what has to happen and all that. And then when I've done all my work on prep, then I get to look at email. So
you treat yourself with email.
I get a little jolt of email. Oh, goody, somebody wrote.
I mean, like most of the verbs, yeah, that's a verb. Yeah, I get to look at, or is, yeah. Well, it's more like I have to look at email. Well, treat yourself, Elisabeth. Treat yourself.
Somebody is invading my consciousness via email.
Yeah.
Good description, Jamie. That's really what's going on.
All right. Do we have time for another topic, Mark?
Yeah, I think we can kind of cover it a little quickly because, ironically enough, I'm going to jump in and kick this off. Article in the New York Times about, kind of like long podcasts and video podcasts and the overlap there. I mean, my lean podcasts clock in at like an hour. Lean blog interviews. They used to be shorter, different reasons, 19 years later, they're usually an hour. My favorite mistake is usually 40 minutes. Jamie and I, gosh, I should have looked. The longest one, we've done a couple that were hour 45.
Yeah, we've probably brushed an hour 45 a couple of times. We've also had a deliberate conversation. Hey, are they getting too long? And we kind of decided, well, we're doing these partly for ourselves, so it just is what it is. Whatever the data says people want it to be, we were kind of, I say going to ignore, but we were kind of going to ignore.
And back in the lean whiskey days, I don't think they ever went on long enough where we had overserved ourselves.
No, I think we did. We did sometimes have two. Well, we did often have two pours during an episode, which might have been a bit much, but not three. I don't ever recall a 3-pour episode, but people solve problems. So my other podcast is 20 minutes, and I did that partly just to fit in a different time slot, just for, because there are a lot of podcasts that are longer, 40 minutes, an hour, hour and a half. And so partly just to fit into a different thing. But the benefit that it's given me that I've really appreciated and don't want to leave is that a lot of my guests are folks that I've known for a long time, I haven't kept up with. And so, we book an hour, we record for 20 minutes, we have time to catch up. And so that's been this beautiful little side benefit to 20-minute episodes for me. I had somebody I had recently, that it's coming out in a little while, but Don Nelson, who I'm sorry, Don Kiefer, who was an old client of mine from long ago, and Nelson Repenning, who was a professor at MIT, and it was his very first semester teaching. I took his systems dynamics class, and we just all haven't kept in touch. I mean, they work together, so they have, but we got to catch up. So the 20 minutes for me has other benefits, but partly it's just to fit into a different space for people.
Well, another old guy story. Back in the day when I started podcasting in 2006, the guidance was, so iPhone was not a thing yet, right? You had MP3 players. It was a lot of work to download a podcast and listen to it. But the guidance was like the length of an average commute in the United States is 25 minutes or whatever it was. Keep your episodes shorter than that, because it's now so much easier. Like if I've got a podcast I listen to regularly that's an hour and a half, it's easy to jump back in and know exactly the podcast software knows, as opposed to kind of like the dumb MP3 player. So I think there's been some technology changes. I bet there's not studies that show attention spans are longer, right? And that's where like the dynamic of like these 2, 3, 4 hour podcasts, I mean, are people breaking that up? It's more likely it's background noise. I don't know.
Yeah. So I have a friend who, my pickleball friend, he's 35. He,
Are you sure you want to be sharing this on a podcast, Tracy?
Yeah, he's a gamer. And he told me he's a fan of this one podcast with 6 hours. I'm like, what? And I thought, wait a minute, you're a millennial. Don't you have the attention span of nothing? And he's like, no, I mean, I just listen to it in the background when I'm gaming.
Yeah.
And and actually I texted him when we were going to be on this. I said, do you watch the video? Mm-hmm. He goes, no, I rarely watch them. I'm just listening to it while I'm gaming. So even though it's video and it's through YouTube, he's not watching it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
And that's what I've read even before this New York Times article of YouTube becoming the second most popular podcast platform. I think that's true. But yeah, a lot of it can be background listening. You put that window behind something else. So yeah, I mean, I started doing video really back during the pandemic, other than some very early experiments. It got easier to do video. But yeah, if I'm looking at people on screen as we're recording, I don't over edit things. So it's throwing it out on YouTube, whether people are listening or maybe even finding it and saying, that's something I want to listen to, and then go find it on Apple or Spotify or something. That's one reason I've put them out on YouTube, even though I see the data. Podcast listens are 20x the number of YouTube views. And I think if I really dug into the deeper stats of how long people listened or watched, I bet that retention is higher on the audio platforms.
Yeah. And I would have expected that, Mark, but that's what was so shocking about the New York Times article, just saying that the vast majority are going for video. But then I was, Tracy and I recently interviewed Gwendolyn Galsworth, and just a reminder, which, we were aware of already, that, 50% of the brain is dedicated to visual processing. So it is our brain's preferred mode. And then she mentioned something that came up for me when reading this article, and back to what you just described, Tracy, about the gamer, is she said, we are keenly attuned to peripheral vision. Like when, she's written all those books about the visual workplace, she's very aware of people your peripheral vision is almost more important. And think back to, saber-toothed tiger movement or something, like in terms of why our brains are doing that. But then when in the article, the description of people just like the gamer having it on in the background, the video, but if something caught their eye, would stop and then focus in on it, because that's what happens. We are so attuned that it can catch our eye. So then I was like, oh, that starts to make sense to me.
Yeah, and I could imagine there's also some moments where it's like a baseball game. You aren't even hearing the words, but all of a sudden the conversation got more animated, and you're like, they seem pretty excited about something. Let me listen to that part of it. And it draws your attention audibly as well, right? You hear the crack of the bat, or you hear the announcer in the baseball game get excited, and you kind of look up from what you're doing. My video stats seem to be higher. Now, my podcast isn't as mature as Mark's is, but by any stretch. But I think we're getting about 20% video consumption. But I don't know who's watching in the background and who's actually watching it. I certainly don't prefer to watch video podcasts. Partly, I think I get antsy. I feel like I need to do something while I'm consuming, and so doing anything else on a screen while also having a podcast in the background, my brain's not going to process that very well. So driving or some of my walks. A lot of walks I like to have no headphones in, but long drives, even if it's just my fish market is like 25 minutes to half an hour away, so there's an hour round trip. Or when I'm going down to North Carolina or Pittsburgh or Lexington, I've got hours and hours in the road. I line up my podcast on a playlist and I listen to them that way. But I almost never watch a podcast.
You made me think in terms of work styles. I can do music. I tend to listen to instrumental music. I'm not. I've even going back 20 years ago when I first had significant, or at least occasional work at home stints. Like I've always been disciplined about. I could leave TV on in the background, or to listen to all of my friends' different podcasts, including yours, Jamie, and yours, Elisabeth and Tracy. Like I would have to have something streaming almost constantly, but I get distracted or I wouldn't process. So I don't listen to stuff, even though I might have the freedom and flexibility to do so. Walking, driving, flying.
Yeah.
That's when I do it. And one of the best stream, by random tidbit here, the best $9.99 a month I pay for any streaming service is to remove commercials from YouTube.
Ooh.
YouTube Premium, like just eliminating, and that's huge. But then you also get the benefit of you can, if you're walking, and pull it up in YouTube and then lock your phone, and the video continues, the audio continues. But you need the YouTube Premium to be able to pull that off. So anyway. Yeah, that's
you're so next level.
Use sponsor code Lean Coffee Doc.
Yeah. Of course, you're going to be efficient about listening to YouTube videos.
Yeah. But we're talking about videos. I mean, I think Tracy and Elisabeth, you do a lot of video training. Jamie, you've done a lot too. But what's different about podcasts compared to a training video? Because training video is supposed to be short.
Yeah, segments, I was thinking about that. So yeah, I have been told that if you're going to do a training video, it should not be longer than 6 minutes because people will lose interest. And it's astounding to me that people are going to watch a 4-hour podcast. But I started to think, well, with training, sometimes you are required to go through that. It's sort of like you have to go through some of the training, or you're told you have to go through the training. But for entertainment, I think people have obviously more of a tolerance for something that they don't feel like they have to listen to a 6-hour podcast. Right. They just want to,
or they don't have to listen as intently.
Right? Yeah.
I think it's even something different from that. There's a difference between taking in a lecture, right? That is a mode that is probably way down on the scale of retention and recall. Mm-hmm. But a conversation is a very different thing. It's animated. It's a connection between human beings. Mm-hmm. And so you think about, sports games, you've got the color, you've got the play-by-play, like that all is riveting and interesting because it's a different thing. Mm-hmm. So I think they're fundamentally different forms of still learning. You're still taking in facts and all that.
And most of the most popular ones are, besides the fact that they have, people more famous than us on them.
What?
Just a little. Yeah. But a lot of them are in person. They're not recorded remotely, and they're in person, sitting on the couch, hanging out, and it's a very casual, comfortable setting. Not that this isn't, right? But again, you're kind of invited into that environment. And to your point, Elisabeth, kind of you're part of the conversation, even if you haven't said anything, although I'm sure a lot of people, just like they yell at the TV, I'm sure a lot of people will yell out a comment to the podcast as well when they disagree with something. But yeah, it's very casual, very comfortable, and you're just part of a conversation happening. You just don't have a lot to say.
And
You're also seeing the reaction of one person to the question of another, like body language and inflection and all that. What are you saying?
One point, and then I'll go back to the point I was going to say. One reason I don't edit. So I had somebody, I think it was a guest on My Favorite Mistake, who's a podcaster, and said because there's this tendency, especially TikTok or whatever, like we got to edit out every little pause.
Yeah.
And this guy, and I think it's an argument for not doing it. He said, if you've asked a guest a question, don't you dare edit out a pause where they're thinking, because that pause is part of the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's a great point.
The length of that pause tells you something. Did they think, or did they have a rote answer ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
When Tracy and I, back years ago, when we started the Just in Time Cafe, and we had someone else editing, and initially I was like, can you just edit out this pause and this pause? And I was like, I had that same attitude. And then at some point I went, what? That's just not natural conversation. Natural conversation has that stuff in it.
And there's more automated tools. So let's talk about short clips. Or I was going to make a joke about correlation and causation. If the most popular podcasts in the nation are 3 or 4 hours long, therefore, if I make a super long podcast, it will be successful. These are quite often stand-up comedians or purported to be comedians, which make a difference. But short videos, though, right? I think we've got like a bimodal distribution of people love, I guess, this really long form content or the short stuff. So, I've been I'm not going to sign up for TikTok, but YouTube Shorts is their competitor, basically up to 60 seconds long vertical videos. So I'm using a tool, Opus.pro, sign up with promo code. But no, I need to think like a podcaster. But, Opus.pro is great, and it will take a 45-minute podcast, and through whether it's AI or if it's just software, it will come up with 25 potential 30 to 60 second long clips, and it'll verticalize them, and you can stack you and the guest or have it full screen. You can tweak and edit the videos. And, if my long form episodes get on the scale of dozens of listens and watches, these short videos, it tends to be hundreds or sometimes thousands. And I'm hoping that those short clips would point people to subscribe to my channel or learn about the podcast. I uploaded one to LinkedIn the other day that was a 5-second clip, partly as an experiment between algorithms and responsiveness and what have you. But short, like take the long form, turn it in the short form. Are you playing with that, either of you?
We are about to. Yeah. We've just been discussing it. And I believe, actually, Brady, our assistant, may have used Opus to do a pass at our launch party.
Yep.
Which you were part of, Mark. Yep. So I was like, oh, well, just as you said that, I was like, well, she's probably going to do the same thing, because we just asked her, like, hey, because we have 3 segments, right? There's the interview, there's the app or the book review, and then there's some Q&A. Yeah. And you guys also have these segments that could make nice chunks. And I was just interviewed on another podcast, and he said, yeah, we do all the short clips. They all do markedly better than the full. And I was like, yeah, makes total sense.
Like both of you, Elisabeth and I have a ton of content out there. We did webinars for years. We did the podcast for years, and we have so much content, and we're just not leveraging it. And so that's kind of what we were talking about is these shorter clips, that making them more specifically available on YouTube, so we're working right now as a part of that, as Elisabeth said.
Well, that's a great point about recycling old content that's kind of evergreen. If you've got an old video of a webinar or a presentation you did on stage, running that, I've run video like that through the systems to create clips.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's good. I like that.
Yeah, we definitely do. We do a teaser clip a week before an episode drops, and then we do 5 clips after an episode drops. And so we're doing those clips as well. I don't think they drive a lot of traffic to subscribes, partly because, and I kind of wonder if there's a correlation here to the longer episodes, is most of the time people are looking at shorts. They're not looking to make any decisions, right? It's a flip. It's a flip. And it was 60 seconds of entertainment or information or less. And then they moved on. So they're not looking to take action or subscribe to anything in that moment. Some will, of course. But I almost wonder if the long episodes are the same thing. Well, if I tee up a 4-hour episode, I don't have to make a decision for a while. Right? And we've all sat there, right? Queue up Netflix. What do you want to watch? I don't know. Let's look through everything they have. And now it's bedtime. So you don't have to make another decision for quite some time.
Great.
That is so funny you said that. I spent an entire evening just watching the trailers of the different shows, and then I'm like, all right, time for bed.
Time for bed.
Yeah.
Need more coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear feedback from anybody. If you've got comments about any of these experiments or formats or length of the episode, you can find us online easy enough and let us know what you think.
Yeah, for Lean Coffee Talk, we're open to feedback and we may ignore it.
It is our right.
It is.
Yeah, right.
Go buy Jamie's book using promo code I don't care. And
I don't care.
I don't care. Buy it. Don't buy it. Whatever.
Don't go to Starbucks.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, but yeah, we do the podcast for us, and we're happy, dear listener, that you are along for the ride. Actually, I had someone else recommend in podcasting land. People don't listen in groups, so always refer to the listener or you in the singular, because that's a very personal connection. So don't say, I had to retrain myself to not say, hey, everybody.
Yeah.
You're addressing that listener. Hey.
Okay, this is a mind warp. I have to go look at our template and be like, okay, I got to work that out. This is interesting. But you're right.
It's a little tidbit.
Yeah, I think we have said a couple times, Elisabeth, can you explain to our audience, blah, 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 blah. So as a collective versus an individual. So
well, I think now, Tracy, we just say, can you explain to our audience of one?
or just say, can you explain? Or,
can you explain?
Or can you explain for the listener? Mm-hmm. And I don't think anyone's going to interpret that as like, I'm the only listener.
I think you included their name. Can you explain to Mark?
In the future, that'll be personalized just as much. So let me just tell a quick story that's a little mind-blowing. So with My Favorite Mistake and Lean Blog interviews, my podcasting host can allow me to insert videos that can, or ads, like for my books or workshops, that can be what they call geo-targeted. But then, like, you can also have other random advertisers, and I don't make a lot of money off of it, so I should probably turn it off. But when I was down in Australia and I was doing just an audio check or something on one of my own podcasts, there is an Australian voice promoting some sort of Melbourne car dealership.
Wow. That's
personalized-ish. But in the future, I bet you can have a service like you sign up and you're a subscriber, and by AI, it just jumps in and we be like, Jamie, welcome to the podcast today. Thank you for listening, Jamie. And
and I think make that in an Australian accent because it's just more interesting.
Right.
Even more personalized.
Yeah. Oh, man. Good one, Mark.
I try. Should we talk about our closing cultural share?
Yeah. So our cultural share is always something we've tasted, experienced, watched, listened to, just something you want to share from any walk of life. So who wants to jump in first?
You guys model it.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Okay. So a movie that I really enjoyed in the last month or so, it's available on Apple TV Plus, and it's called Wolves. So grammatically, not wolves, not Dances with Wolves, wolf with an S. It's yet another Brad Pitt, George Clooney movie. These guys are good. They're good together. And if you remember The Wolf from Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
Yep. So both
the cleaner,
Pitt and Clooney's characters. And funny enough, I don't think you ever learn their names at all in the movie, but they both play cleaners or fixers who both get called to the same problem scene, but by two different people. And they're thrown in this situation where, like, I work alone. No, I'm not going to work with this other person. And they kind of have the standoff of like, well, if you're going to do it, I'm not going to do it. But they can't really do that. So they're forced to work together for these two different bosses with competing interests. But the things that made me think about Lean was that, like, they have their standard work. If not, they're set in their ways. They're also very protective of their standard work of like, well, I don't want you stealing this method from me. But it turns out their methods and everything are actually so similar that there's one criminal that they end up having to spend a lot of time with. And this guy keeps asking, like, so how long have you two worked together? And you're like, you two are partners. And like, nope. And like, but you even dress alike. And like, so they're just, anyway, there's, it was a lot of comedy, and we could stretch to say that there's some Lean stuff in there, but good movie, Wolves.
Well, I'll have to watch that. I haven't seen it, so good share. Please for me.
Good.
So I got called the cleaner at one of my clients. I'll take that as a compliment. They're like, "Oh, she's the process cleaner."
Hopefully, it wasn't that bloody.
No, it wasn't bloody.
Because this movie, no spoilers, it was a bloody scene, but that, like in Pulp Fiction.
I did see it. It is hilarious. Mm-hmm. I totally enjoyed it, Mark. I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you did see it.
I did. Yeah, no, it was great. As you're talking, I'm like, wait a second, I saw that. Okay, I will.
Do you want to go next, or do you want to back clean up and finish it off after Tracy and Elisabeth?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to go next, Elisabeth?
No, you, Tracy. Go ahead.
Okay, well, mine is a little different. And again, I have a theme, another theme going on here about my life and my body and my health. So, so a book I recently read because of this pre-diabetic thing is something my doctor actually recommended. And it's this book, The Complete Guide to Fasting. Put in what did you call it? Put in promo code, "Are you a freak?" Okay, so what's interesting about this is the visceral reaction that I get from people when I talk about that I might be trying to do a fast to reset my blood sugar. So I'm going to be honest, when my doctor said, you should look at fasting, I thought, heck no, are you crazy? And so I said, okay, I'm going to read about it. I'm going to study it. I'm going to see, because you hear about all this intermittent fasting and everything. So I said, okay, I really do need to understand more. And so I read the book, very interesting, a lot of studies and research about how it resets your blood sugar. So, because really what we do now is we go on medication. So we're really, the symptom is you're pre-diabetic. And what do? We just cover it up with medication. Mm-hmm. And we're not really addressing it at the root cause, right?
Point for Tracy. Yes.
Yeah.
Root cause.
So I started looking into this fasting idea, and I actually did do a 5-day fast. And it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And a lot of it was based on understanding the process, the whole idea of ketosis and then autophagy, I think it's called, where the body eats itself, but the bad stuff. Anyway, very interesting. And I haven't redone my blood work yet because, you have to measure after improvement. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I need to do a couple more for the year before I remeasure it. So we'll see how it goes. But that's what I...
So when you say 5-day, was that 5 days of intermittent fasting, or is that like a liquid?
It was a mimicking fasting. So it's mimicking the fasting process. So you do eat soups and teas and a couple packages of olives, and and that it mimics the fast. The body has the same effect as you would if you were doing a regular fast. So day 1 was actually easy, and day 5 was easy. Day 3 and 4 were the hardest, but I just drank water every hour. At the top of every hour, I set my alarm, and I would drink water, and I actually did not eat my arm.
There's something to be said for, like, if you feel hungry, you might be needing water. And like, I had a fairly extensive version of a routine physical recently, and was told you should feel the sensation of hunger at least once a day. And like, okay, that's a signal that, okay, it's time. My body needs food, as opposed to I'm eating because it's a certain time. He's not saying you have to always feel that before eating, but it's like, you should feel that regularly. And I said, well, something about water is like, oh, no. If you ever feel thirsty, that's a huge problem. That's not something to, like, you need to keep ahead of it with water. And drinking water on the hour, every hour sounds like really good. You put that on your calendar, Tracy?
Yes, I did. I put it as an alarm.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So it was very eye-opening, just participating in the fast, and, the habits that we have that we feel like we cannot live without. And, like, I didn't have coffee the whole week, and, cause it wasn't part of the program. And so I ended up drinking tea. I usually only drink tea when I'm sick. And so it just really made me open up my thinking about my habits, really, and like the things I think I can't live without, and I can live without them. And I never had low energy. I played pickleball and I went to the gym the whole week. I didn't overdo it, but I did not feel tired. And I think what's interesting is most of the time you don't eat for 5 days because you're sick as a dog, right? So we kind of associate not eating with weakness, and we feel weak because we're sick. That's why we couldn't eat. And so we have this, in my opinion, for me, I always felt like, oh, that's why I felt weak, because I wasn't eating. No, it's because you're sick. But, fasting is really a part of, it's always been a part of the human makeup, caveman days and all that. But we just never have to fast anymore because we have food constantly and too much of it. So it's been a really interesting learning journey, and I'm actually kind of excited to do a couple more. So sign up to be a freak and read the book.
The name of the book again is
The Complete Guide to Fasting by Jason Fung, MD.
Yeah, because there's probably, it's just following a medically guided approach to it is different than somebody who risks starving themselves.
Exactly. Yes.
Follow the standardized work.
Exactly.
From, in this case, the experts. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Tracy.
How about you, Elisabeth?
Swanee.
So, thank you, Mark. Nickname is Swanee. This is also a book, and just listening to Tracy, it also changed some of my thinking. And this one is The Brain That Changes Itself. And I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Norman Doidge, or Doidge. He's a physician. And it is 18 years old. The book is not new, and it's about basically chronicling the discovery of neuroplasticity. And one of the first learnings I had was the term I use all the time in my own teaching is, we're hardwired. We're hardwired to do X. We're hardwired to do X. And we're not hardwired. But I think I need a new term for it, like we're pre-wired. And what struck me first of all, because he goes through a lot of studies and experiments that people ran, and the sort of the groundbreakers that said, hey, this is actually, the localism was the understood method. Like, this part of your brain does this part of your brain does this, and never the twain shall meet or change. And anything that was coming through, people just rejected. The scientific community again and again would say, nope, that's hearsay. Those aren't substantiated. So you really had to come at it from all these different angles. Different practitioners tried at different times. And finally I think one big name said, actually, this proved me wrong. And then boom, things shifted. So just the power, I think, of individuals to take something in and let new thought arise, that stuck with me. The other thing that really, because when I read books, I think, well, how's that going to change what I do? And for this one, what struck me was your brain has the ability to constantly grow, as far as I can tell, until you expire. But, if you think about what we were like as infants, where we were learning constantly. What's that sound? What's that word? What's that mean? And we were mimicking. We were just like these little open books. But by middle age, which I would say all of us are hovering in and around or above, is we are practicing mastery, right? So we are good at what we do. So in order to grow your brain, you have to learn new things, right? And that could be music, an instrument, a language, a different aspect of your career, a technique. So to be constantly learning. And what I remembered was my grandmother, who lived in 99 and stayed sharp. And she announced, I don't even know when this was. She might have been in her 80s. She said, I'm going to learn something new every day. And then she would tell me what she learned. So it was like coming back to I got that. So it really alters that attitude I have, and just knowing that I am rewiring my brain. So, if I start my day with gratitude, that's helping to rewire my brain. Right. So anyway, that's where I got to. And once again, I'm not getting any money. This is a book that's been out for 18 years.
Great.
None of us are getting money for anything we've talked about today.
Nope. My father is learning piano. That's his
right now.
Yeah. That's part of his practice, and I think very deliberately with some of that in mind. So, mine won't be quite as educational, I think.
No, mine wasn't, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Mine's actually a podcast called You Don't Know Peanuts about Snoopy, Charlie Brown, and the gang. A lot of people say Snoopy and the gang, but I once put on a Charlie Brown shirt and just did this on my forehead with a marker. And I got comments everywhere in Halloween for what a great costume. So that's how close Charlie Brown and I are. We're twins.
Yeah.
It's just a podcast. I think there's a couple of co-hosts. One, I believe, is sort of like the director of whatever institution carries on the property rights. And for example, it's about half an hour episode. I was listening to one on a walk that was about the history of their relationship with Hallmark. Hallmark was a client of mine for a long time. And so they had, I think the role was the chief historian or the librarian or someone that, knows the archives of Hallmark. And so they were the guests on the show, and they talked for 30 minutes about the relationship between Hallmark and Charlie Brown and Snoopy and the gang, Peanuts, and Charles Schulz, and how all that evolved, how it started, what happened over time. So if you're a big fan of Peanuts, interesting backstories, it's really what they're getting into. I'm a big fan of the Christmas special. It's not Christmas till you watch the Charlie Brown special. So there's an episode on the music. I'll probably listen to that episode next. So fun. If you like Peanuts, it's a fun little backstory stuff. So that's my cultural share.
That's great. Just you mentioning that music brings the music to mind, and then you cannot be unhappy and listen to it.
It's not a copyright strike if everyone sings it to themselves.
Nope.
We all know you cannot play that in the podcast.
All right. Well, congratulations again on the book. Thanks for coming on this little crossover event, JIT Cafe, and had an enjoyable conversation. We covered a lot of ground.
Yes, it was. Thank you so much. Cheers to you guys for having us on the podcast.
Thanks.
Cheers, and always a blast. I love these conversations. You had such awesome prompts. I totally appreciate it.
Well, thank you for joining us. And again, congrats on the Problem Solvers Toolkit. Everyone check out the JIT Cafe. Check out People Solve Problems, Jamie's book and podcast. And check out my book, The Mistakes That Make Us.
And also Mark.
Why not? Need to. Mark Graban ships episodes.
And full disclaimer, we are getting paid if you buy the books.
Not much, but yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Thanks for listening to Lean Coffee Talk. To learn more or to find more episodes, visit leancoffeetalk.com. You can also visit jflinch.com/leancoffeetalk. Look for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're very grateful for every rating, review, and follow. Until our next episode, cheers!